Tiny Glade is an indie sandbox diorama builder that was nominated for the Steam Awards and BAFTA Awards in 2024. In this video, I'm gonna build a diorama of Hallstatt, which is a beautiful, quaint little town in the mountains of Upper Austria, home to the oldest salt mine in the world. I took this new game as an opportunity to learn how to plan and design new structures. But I bit off more than I could chew with this behemoth of a project that challenged the limits of this tiny game. I'm NobleKoala. Please subscribe to my channel and click the like button and the hype button if you like this video, as it took me close to 100 hours IRL to design this town. The first step was to build the terrain. Hallstatt is located on the banks of a lake and the slopes of a mountain range. I started this project in 2024, assuming it would only take a week for me to build, given how easy it seems to construct something in Tiny Glade. I marked out areas using the path tool and the grass tool to make things easier. This is what the marketplace looks like in real life. I used these as reference images to try and build an accurate representation of it. I spent most of my time working on the marketplace, as I wanted it to look accurate. There aren't many selections in the game that add variety to a build. For example, I had to create custom roofs by using more than one roof. When the game was first released, it would often crash, possibly because I would use way too many different items in one area. But over time, the devs sort of ironed that out because the game stopped crashing, and I haven't had it crash in almost 1 year. I did find paint colors a bit limiting, as I couldn't accurately represent some of my builds. For example, the color brown in this game has more of a greenish tinge to it, rather than a regular, warm brown color. You will notice this in most of the balconies in the build. When you begin a building project, even in Minecraft, it is sometimes hard to tell if one building is scaled accurately. Sometimes you've got to readjust the size of a build to match the builds surrounding it. And that is something that took a while for me to learn and incorporate in this game. You will see me build a build and then change the position or the size of the build to match the surroundings. I tried to build the town a little smaller in size, but the windows are a fixed size, as are the doors and clutter. I also used whole structures to create these balconies here. In theory, if it's possible, I would like to be able to create a balcony without it being a separate structure, if that makes sense. One of the biggest changes that I think could help the game is if it was possible to lock structures to other structures. Every time I had to move a build a centimeter to the right or the left, I had to move every single structure that was connected to it. And since my project wasn't based in fantasy but in reality, I had to move things around so that it would actually resemble the real town of Hallstatt. I also wish there was an option to turn off clutter that auto-generates from placing a window or a door. The church was the most fun for me to build. because I just really like what this church looks like. I couldn't make the tower tall enough because Tiny Glade has limits on how tall a structure and a roof can be. So I settled for a smaller church to make up for it. This church was constructed around the year 1863, and it's said to have been inspired by neo-Romanesque architecture. This may not be the last time you see this church in my builds. If you would like to build with me, you could follow me on Twitch, as I plan to stream some of my gameplay in the near future. Some builds were easier than others. This hotel, for one, took me a while to design, as it had a complicated exterior. And while building this, I realized that the whole town is actually built on a slope, including the marketplace. So I raised all the builds to alter the terrain and match what you would see if you visited this place. This small statue in the marketplace was actually quite hard to design. And since the game doesn't have any statues, I made this into a fountain instead, using blue-colored fences. In 2025, we got the cobblestone and the stairs update, which, I'm not gonna lie, would have saved me hours on this project had I had it 1 year ago. But instead, I created a cobblestone road using several circular structures instead. And this is how long it took to place every tile. Did I partially abandon the project during this? Yes, I did consider it. But I got back to it because I wanted to see it completed. Then I worked on the other houses and hotels facing the lake. And I made sure to include the waterways that let water flow from the waterfall to the lake. I also used regular roofs to make awnings, as there are none in the game. Here I tried to make a circular table using fences. One of my favorite things about Tiny Glade is placing clutter and decor. I do wish that we had more of it, but I understand that that might change the size of the game or make it harder to render. I will say I am happy to know that the developers have continued to work on the game to improve it. For example, when I first started this project, I didn't have the option to copy clutter. Instead, I had to click on a window many times until the item appeared. This seems like a small improvement, but it was huge in terms of gameplay. I built a path leading to the bone house, along with some of the houses and hotels surrounding it. The next big build was the bone house. It was tough to connect all the builds together and have it scale accurately, which is why you will see me moving these builds back and forth, as the canvas you build on cannot be expanded to create more space. According to Hallstatt Austria.eu, the bone house contains over 1,200 skulls and thousands of other bones, many of which are elaborately decorated and hand-painted with floral designs. You can get to know the exact time period the skull comes from these paintings on the skull. Finally, I built a wooden boat, and it is supposed to resemble the boats that bring tourists into town. I used a fence and a wheel to make it look like a steering wheel. Now join me on a tour of Hallstatt in Tiny Glade. We begin this tour on a boat, as you would if you were a tourist. And you are obligated to pet any sheep or cats that you see. Since walking might be too slow, let's take a jog instead. I began this project so I could learn how to design builds better, and I do believe it has helped me understand how to scale builds better, even in other games. I love that the game looks like a real diorama when you actually take a step back. I love that I can walk through the build and take a look at all the structures up close. And lastly, I'd like to walk the path that I first designed at the very start, even though it looks imperfect. Because I do believe that beauty lies in imperfection. I'm NobleKoala. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like on the video, and I will see you next time.